Everybody, it's Dave Murphy. I'm here with another filmmaker talking about their film, which is premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival. So I'm very honored and happy to have the director of the film Mexican-American, Eddie Sanchez. Eddie, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Eddie, talk to me a little about this film. What is it all about, and how did it come to be?
The film is called Mexican American. It is about my parents' journey from Mexico to the United States and what it was like raising my brothers and I in a completely different culture. They are from rural Mexico, very Catholic. So growing up, wanting to be a part of the mainstream, I gravitated towards what I saw on TV and what I learned in school. And, eventually those cultural differences started to manifest itself in my family. And this all started as just like a project for my brother, actually. He was applying to colleges, and it was COVID, and we had this idea of doing a sort of homage to Martin Scorsese's Italian American. Because it was simple, right? It was just a talking head setup. It was our parents, so scheduling was easy. We did those interviews, and then it originally was kind of this short form thing, but I had all of these interviews still, and it was hours worth of content, and I kept working on it, and then I discovered these VHS tapes, the home videos that they used as a way of they mailed it over the border to family back home, and so it became this collage, and it just turned into a totally new thing, and that's the version that exists today.
No, no, that's interesting because, excuse me, hold on. That's really interesting to hear because, I mean, obviously the home movies are such an integral part of the overall documentary. Actually, as
Yeah,
I was watching it, I thought to myself, is he just going to show home movies the entire time? Which, by the way, I mean, obviously skillfully edited and integrated into the documentary and whatnot, especially considering you had no control over, what the cinematographer did with their
exactly.
video. But no, then you start integrating obviously the interviews and whatnot, the more traditional documentary interview type. But no, that's interesting that it started out as interviews with your parents essentially, and then you discover this cache of home movies
Yeah,
after the fact. Because I was thinking, I mean, this film is so contingent on your home movies
yeah.
to even exist, that it's interesting. When you found this kind of cache of home movies, is that when it clicked that this could be something that could become a documentary, or were you planning to do something regardless of that?
That's when it clicked that this could be something different. Because, like I said, it was originally an inspiration um, off of this other film, but that's when I realized that it could be something more formally interesting, right? And when I saw the footage, I mean, there every videotape you can just feel the love my parents had for each other and for my brothers and I, just kind of radiating off the screen. And I think everybody has that experience when they see like old footage of like their family or even if it's not VHS tapes, but VHS especially, I think it just has this nostalgic quality to it, the way that it's made, the way, even though it's like, I think if you, the transfers are like 480p, that's like the most you can get out of it.
Yeah,
But there's just something to that that feels really raw, and that you can't really replicate. But I was very excited finding that and I love the challenge of trying to create a film out of amateur footage that my parents shot. Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Kudos to your father and I'm imagining your mother as well for, getting you that or creating that footage because obviously, not everybody has that. Like for instance, my parents were not shutterbugs with regard to at least video,
Yeah.
right? They took some photos, but that's about it. So I actually did a documentary on my own mother because she was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
Yeah, yeah, but it's mostly interviews and me going back to Poland with her and following her around and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I wish I had, that kind of archival footage, that you were so lucky to get. Talk to me about kind of because again, you have all this content, right? How do you organize it in such a way where you can actually build a cohesive narrative around it? Are you logging it all? Are you watching every minute of it? Do you have people do that for you? How does that go for you? And how long did it take to actually put this documentary together?
That's a great question. I mean, to answer how long it took, I wasn't continuously working on it, but it was on and off 5 years,
5 years. Wow.
was the amount of time. Shooting more interviews, watching all the footage, and it was in between other projects as well. But the process of it was, I would digitize everything. I think we have about 30 hours of home movies that I
Okay.
needed to watch. And I took notes that were basically whenever something, and I led with the visuals. Whenever something visually interesting would come up, or something felt um, poetic, even though I couldn't like quite describe why yet. I logged it like, oh, that was an interesting shot of this, even if it's just like, oh, a bird or like anything that I thought could be usable. I would write down. And then, really, I guess it went into the process of coming up with what the story was, right? Because I think originally it was just focused on my parents. I didn't want to be involved in it at all. I didn't want my brothers to really be involved in it. I was just focused on like, where are you from? How did you get here? What do you think of America? I think it was a little more maybe politically minded at first, but then it eventually became like, no, I think the more powerful story is like um, my brothers and I are such an integral part of their story that I couldn't really cut us out of it. So, especially looking at these tapes, they hardly ever film each other. It was mostly me and my brother. So I had to really kind of rethink and then try to cut everything and put it all together. But that was generally my process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, my wife is Mexican American, and we watched it together because I wanted to kind of see,
Okay.
her take on it. And she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, she resonated with a lot what was in the film and the
I
old
love to hear that.
country, and stuff like that. Because her parents also grew up in a very rural part of Mexico where
Oh,
no
great. Yeah.
water, no running water and
Yeah.
electricity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for you as a Mexican American, how do you define yourself, or do you let that define you? And also, do you go back to Mexico to kind of reconnect with your heritage?
I mean, that is a big part of why I made this film. It eventually became this by way of learning more about my parents and their background. Like I said, grew up really, really interested in just being an American kid, just a normal kid, just like what I saw all around me. And I think the distance grew between me and especially my extended family, but also my parents in terms of like how we could relate to each other.
Yeah,
And so this was kind of my opportunity to kind of reclaim that and kind of catch up on maybe some of the things I missed out on as I was trying to fit in. I think I had never really seen a film that really touched on how assimilation feels in that way. And so I think that this did get me closer with my family. And I mean, we've always been close. And again, I love my parents, but it is that sort of thing that um and I think everybody has a little bit of like, oh, how do I relate to my mom and dad and whatnot? But the added dynamic of it being heritage and being uh nationality, I think now I I believe that, what makes an American is so fluid,
mhm,
especially because this is a nation of immigrants.
sure.
Um I have a much better time really trying to focus on the music that my parents grew up with,
Okay.
the traditions that my parents grew up with. I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting married in October. I'm getting married
Oh,
through
congrats.
the Catholic Church. It's
Yeah.
and that's something that I'm trying to try to relate to a little more. But it's still a process, you know?
Right. Absolutely. You've done a couple other things that I can, look up and research. You have this TV series called Screwed, and
Hmm.
music video and whatnot. How did sort of your experience and also, your work as a student help lead you up to your experience to be able to make this documentary? Like, what kind of helped inform your capabilities and your tastes that helped define again this Tribeca premiering documentary?
That's a great question. I was mostly focused on narrative filmmaking, first of all. So, like you said, that TV series. Um, I But the whole time I've always been my own editor, and that's actually what got me into filmmaking in the first place was editing. I loved the feeling of like putting a puzzle together that was so psychological, and the puzzle was like, how do you express that somebody is walking through space and like reaching a door without having all of the like, actually seeing him walk all the way through. It's things like that. I was just really intrigued by the psychology of it, and I think that is also the thing that drove a lot of my projects that I was directing. And I also wanted to always have a little bit of myself in whatever I was doing, even if it was like, it's something I didn't write, like Screwed or a music video for somebody else.
Hmm.
I really only know how to be passionate about something when I can see myself in it or put myself into it in some way. And so that made me also more comfortable with the idea of doing something so personal like this.
Yeah.
Um, and that combined with my love of editing, I think it all just came together really nicely into something that I believe is indicative of who I am as a filmmaker. This debut.
Well, considering all that and considering the recent resurgence of the found footage genre with the release of the movie like Backrooms,
Yeah,
I think you could probably parlay that into maybe like a horror movie or something else and probably
absolutely.
get a lot of attention.
Yeah, I know. And I think that too, I think that's something that can translate into other things. And, I have other projects in the works, but like I am really interested in borders, which is appropriate
Okay.
because, and I don't mean just the, literal borders like the ones in the movie,
Hmm.
but the things that separate us culturally, philosophically, in terms of our values. What is it? Class, whatever it
Hmm.
is. Like the
Sure.
things that make us different. What are these invisible borders? How do we cross them? How do we keep them up? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that inspires that? And I think that that's a through line in all of my work as well.
It reminds me, there's a series, a YouTube series where there's I can't remember his name, but he does a whole series on borders. I think more geographical borders,
Cool.
as opposed to the psychological borders. But that's an interesting concept. I was going to ask you what you had lined up next or what you were working on. Is there anything you can tell about anything you're working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, no, I have a few projects I'm developing. One is a narrative feature. It's a coming of age romance. I'm from Oregon, and it is about these two high school sweethearts who live in the same trailer park outside of Oregon, and one gets the opportunity to study at an elite school in New York City, while the other one can't afford to go to college, and it takes place over the course of one day where she's visiting him for the first time in this new environment, and he has all of these new very wealthy friends, which again, the what are these things that separate us culturally, and
Yeah,
how do people change, and yeah, and a couple other projects too, but that's what I have going on.
absolutely. So I know you have three showings going on at Tribeca. I believe your premiere is on June 9th at 5 p.m. Is
Hmm.
that correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
The Village East by Angelica. So if you're hearing this before the show, definitely go out and see the film. What are your thoughts on actually being accepted to be premiere at a film like Tribeca, and what do you hope to kind of gain from this overall experience?
It's an honor. I mean, and I think that the incredible thing about Tribeca is that, I feel like they really put their money where their mouth is in terms of like really discovering talent. And really, I have felt so welcomed into this community. And I've met so many other like first time feature filmmakers and first time short filmmakers too
Hmm.
that all agree that Tribeca really cares about the people that they prop up. And I'm very grateful and very excited to take part in all the events, see all the other movies. I'm having a lot of fun and it's great.
That's awesome. Do you plan to submit Mexican American to other festivals after this?
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta, you know.
Yeah,
I would love because festivals are their own form of distribution too.
of course.
I would love to be able to show the film everywhere. We're looking at international places right now too for our international premiere.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, absolutely.
No, I imagine a film like this would have a real attraction in the Latino audiences, and whatnot. So there's
Yeah.
definitely some opportunity there. From the speaking of distribution, do you have any distribution lined up for a streaming platform, anything like that, or is that still in the works?
No, not yet. If anybody wants to call me, I'm here. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Maybe Telemundo. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd
Yeah.
be fun.
Because I mean, out here, obviously, have a lot of the Spanish in it. Um,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. What do you want people to take away from seeing this film? What's like the biggest takeaway that you want from people to get from watching your film?
I think what was important to me was to not center the film around policy or systems,
Hmm.
um, or even politics necessarily.
Yeah,
To me, this is a film about people who are going through something that not everyone gets to experience,
sure.
and what that feels like, and the humanity behind it all, the flaws, the laughter, the tears, all of that. And I think that I hope that people just feel that they see themselves in the story, regardless of whether or not it's something they experience themselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think anyone who is perhaps, a first generation American should feel some sort of kinship toward the film.
Mhm.
You mentioned politics, and I applaud your desire to not be lumped in or be associated with any kind of politics, but that's really difficult, obviously, with the current political climate.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, you also address a undocumented person during the film, like that's
Mhm.
part of the story of the film. Are you concerned at all about people perhaps twisting or taking the narrative you're trying to present and trying to put a political spin on it?
I'm not concerned about it only because like I have no control over that. People see what they want to see in the films. All I know is that I am just trying to make a story about my family without feeling the need to you know, hide any details.
Oh,
And we've gone to great lengths to make sure that everybody is safe,
yeah,
that we're doing things properly.
good.
But I'm sure somebody will think something when
Hmm.
they see it. But that's beyond my control.
One last question for you. Do you think, with again the 30 hours of footage you have accumulated with this, that there is perhaps room for other stories or even sequels to this story that you might want to tell? Or were there things on the cutting room floor that you wish you could tell in another or a follow-up story?
Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted just thinking about a sequel. But probably yes. No, I mean, but also for the most part, I think that I really did do my best to like fit all of the shots I wanted to in there.
Yeah,
Again, talking about puzzles, it almost felt like I started with the images and then tried to make a story around those. And I feel like I did end up getting there are a couple things and maybe more like DVD bonus features or
there
what
you
have
go.
yeah.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, thank you again so much, Eddie, for being on the program. I really appreciate it. Before we say goodbye, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, come see the film. Like you said, we premiere on the 9th at 5 p.m., but we are also screening on the 10th at 6 p.m. and the 14th at 6 p.m., all at the Village East.
That's great. Will your family be at any of the showings?
Absolutely. They will, my parents and my brother Evan, who's a co-producer on the film, they will be at the shows on the 9th and the 10th, and then my brother Edgar is going to be there for the show on the 14th.
Wonderful. All right. Well, if I see you in the area, I'll be sure to say hello.
Please do. Please do.
All right. Well, that has been Eddie Sanchez, the director of Mexican American, showing up at the Tribeca Film Festival June 9th, 10th, and 14th. So everybody go check that out. All right. Have a good day, Eddie.
Thank you.
Bye bye.